Get the coolest mesh online at mesh.alfred.vip.
And y'all know David E. Taylor. So him and another lady, Michelle Brennan, got indicted, and they say that the scheme that prosecutors say exploited vulnerable followers and racking up to nearly $50 million. Wait till you see the house that this man was living in, pimping the people for money. I want to talk about this church thing because y'all know I supported, and I still support my guy Chris and Nathan with the religion business docuseries, where they expose these churches for doing the most horrific stuff when it comes to funneling, not to say funneling money, but when it comes to embezzling and taking money and using it for nefarious means, just taking the people for all their money so they can live in private communities with. Wait till you see the house that this dummy lived in. And y'all know David E. Taylor. There's this famous clip of David E. Taylor, the famous clip of this fool, when he went through a divorce and he had to get deposed. And in the deposition, they were just going on and on about how he's using $40,000 to cut limousines and build them for his JJMI or whatever the organization, his church organization that he's with, living in mansions, buying Louis Vuitton belts. It's his famous phrase. It made my wife still laugh at today where they asked him, why you got these suits? He go, because I sweat through all my suits. They're like, why you got Versace suits? This dude's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on high-end stuff. And he's a fraud, and I'm glad he got caught this time.
All right, so what is this residential center?
This is a place that the ministry owns. Well, not own, we're in the process of buying that.
So first of all, let's address something. There's something people need to realize. The Bible tells us that, we should be humble and gentle like sheep, but we need to be smart like serpents. The Bible talks about being aware of the wiles of the enemy, the games that the enemy play. It's unfortunate that Christians are not alert to the deceptions against Christianity. Now, the problem is not this pastor. The problem is that people don't see the attack on the church. Just recently, we saw the transgender thing. Transgender runs up into a church, shoots up the congregation. This is not the first time, this is not the second time. This is a revelation of anti-Christian hate, how strong it is. And what does the mayor, the governor, run up and do immediately? To ensure that there's no sentiment of pity towards Christians, to make sure that the Christians don't look like the victims, but look like the oppressors. He comes out and says, that he's hearing there's a lot of anti-trans sentiment and all of that now is not the time to lead with hate, all of that. Christians just got killed for being Christians. And what does the politician do? He comes out, runs out, and demonizes Christians, demonizes prayer, and says, this is not the time for thoughts and prayers. There's nobody that is saying that we should just pray about it and that is all. But these people, they just have that hatred for Christianity. And this is why I keep emphasizing the 7 mountains and beyond and the importance of Christians going into politics. Now look at because of lack of Christians in politics, strong Christians in politics and positions of authority, look at what is happening to this pastor now. He has said, and Brandon Tatum, shout out to Brandon Tatum, I love most of his videos, but in this case, he's completely wrong and completely off. Completely. You've watched this video. He's saying that he doesn't own the house. If this house is in the church's name, the residential area is in the church's name. And they don't even own it. They are still in the process of listening. They are listening to buy. You watched the video, you posted the video, so you know what is in the video, yet you still lied in the same video, Brandon Tatum, at the beginning of the video, that he's using the people's money to buy these mansions and all these things. Keep in mind, and this is something that they won't talk about, they won't address the fact that that residential apartment, he's not the only one living there. They won't address the fact that Because I've watched this video before, but I'll watch it again with you guys and, break down certain things. I don't personally know this guy's, ministry. I'm not acquainted with his ministry. I just found out about it as, this story started popping up. Keep in mind that there's the issue with the Epstein files. We have an entire island where super wealthy people went to be sleeping around with little children. That is what the government want to sweep under the rug. But it is this pastor that they now want to come at and go at him with allegations. A lot of times when people attack pastors and preachers like this, be wise and listen. There are some people, people like Marcus Rogers. He is just excited for a preacher to be attacked. That's just his ministry. He's in the ministry of accuser of the brethren. He just hears an accusation and he jumps. He wants to accuse and demonize pastors. He's doing Satan's work better than Satan. When it comes to being the accuser of the brethren, Marcus Rogers is a better devil than the devil. When it comes to accusing pastors and accusing preachers, you just hear something. This is not a new tactic. When you study Christianity, why was Jesus killed? Why was Jesus crucified? Keep in mind, he was brought before Pontius Pilate. That is politics. And he was accused of things all the things that he was accused of, he didn't do. For them to crucify Jesus. So if they falsely accuse Jesus, what makes you think they will not falsely accuse his followers and true disciples of Jesus? So it is not new. People need to be wise and smart and see that this is what goes on. This is what the devil does. This is his modus operandi with attacking the church. So don't just jump on bandwagons, and when you see them attacking a preacher, you jump and join in.
Yeah, we don't
So are
own
you
it yet.
renting to buy, or
Yeah, we're leasing to buy.
So you see the house, listen to buy. And when you look at this house and see the number of rooms, clearly he's not living in it alone. And it's not something that is, you can say, is for family members. Just him and family members. And when you keep on watching this, because I've watched several videos on this topic, he lives. A lot of people that were previously homeless, he houses them. His church houses them. First of all, this is a property owned by the church. And this is not new. A lot of people own non-profits so that they can buy assets. Just the same way, a lot of people don't put a lot of the things they own in their name, but they put it in their business name. Because the liberals and the leftists has created a world in which we are punished for being rich, and we are punished for prospering, we are punished for growing. So therefore, it is common sense for you to put things in the name of your company and not your own name. In the same way, people use non-profits to own assets. Now, this is owned by a non-profit, not him, an individual. It is not owned by an individual. It is owned by the non-profit, by the church. And it is used to house not just him, but also others. There are a lot of people that, when you watch the videos, you see that a lot of the people that they are saying so-called forced labor. Look at these stupid allegations. Forced labor meaning that they are not paying the people at the call centers. First of all, they do not address the fact that the people who work at the call centers, a lot of them are volunteers. It is a non-profit. If you want to come after this, you have to come after every other non-profit. Go after all the non-profits of the world, the Antifa, the LGBTs, and all those ones. Go after them too. Go after the Democratic Party and their organizations and their lobby groups. Are all those people being paid above minimum wage? And I'm not talking about one-time payments to riots. I'm talking about salary. You are the same people who will attack churches for asking for money. But yet you are saying that the people who work in the churches should be paid above minimum wage. But anytime they ask for money, oh, the pastor is all about money. Oh, he's buying this, he's buying that. It's crazy. And when it comes to things like the suits and the clothes that the pastor wears, why shouldn't he dress well? And is that not part of the presentation? When it comes to you are putting yourself on TV, even you, Brandon Tatum, when you are on screen, you know, don't you wear your own mesh? Why do you wear your own mesh? You know, it's not advertising. So it's a well thought out thing. You are just making YouTube videos, but yet you understand the importance of what you wear. What you wear is part of your brand. So if a pastor is coming and preaching to you and he looks like poverty, how many people who are better off will want to listen to him? I live in Nigeria, and I know there are pastors who look like poverty, especially in the early days. You know, there are pastors who, you know, they wear oversized suits, they look poor and all of that. Nobody listens to them. Because who wants to learn from a poor man? What is there to learn from a poor man? The Bible itself says that the wisdom of the poor is not listened to. Read the book of Proverbs. It is there written in the Bible. Wisdom in the mouth of a poor man will fall on deaf ears. Nobody is going to listen to him. It's a waste. You know, so the attire, what he's wearing, is part of his presentation. It's part of the whole thing, you know. And people ignore the fact that people in that church donated and gave money because they want to see the gospel preached. They want to see, they saw what the man was doing, how he was preaching the gospel, and they want him to continue. That is why they are supporting him and they are not supporting you. You know, because I heard Marcus Rogers complaining that why do people give these people money and nobody is giving him Marcus Rogers money. Marcus Rogers, he's making money from monetizing YouTube and dissing pastors. He's monetizing dissing pastors and attacking pastors, including this pastor. So when you are opening your mouth and saying that the other pastor is all about money, you are making money from criticizing other pastors. And you are saying that, oh, they should donate to you. The reason why they donated to him is because they see what he's doing in that community. Do you know how many homeless people do you see that are still homeless around that community, around that church? It is because of that church. A lot of those people in those call centers, why do you think they are working there? Did he put a gun to their head and say, oh, you cannot leave, this is forced labor? No. Those are people that will not be employed anywhere. A lot of them are not qualified to work anywhere. Otherwise, they'll be working somewhere else. If they were qualified to be working in Microsoft or Ubisoft or whatever soft, you know, they'll be working there and earning millions. The reason why they are working at the call center and a roof is put over their head, the people who are making these documentaries, Fox, and Fox is as evil as CNN. Fox is a different kind of evil. It's evil targeted at the right wing, you know. But they will not put the fact that this guy, you know, because this is the reality. For you to have a church that big, the people that are giving to you are not stupid. They are seeing what you are doing. They are seeing how you are using it. They are seeing the people that you are helping. You know, when it comes to the people that are in those call centers, they don't talk about, and when you watch all the videos, they don't talk about all the people who call with problems for prayer. They make it look like the purpose of the call centers is just to get donations. No. Everybody knows how ministry works. If you are somewhat conversant and you have been a part of any big church, you know, you should understand there are prayer lines. The media does not talk about all the people that perhaps were suicidal, all the people that had one problem or the other that called, and the person on the other line had to pray with them and speak with them. That is the primary purpose of these call centers. Then another function that they will do is to follow up with partners of the ministry and ask for donations. Because understand that all these people that are calling, many of them are not, it's not going to end in prayer. There has to be a follow-up, and a lot of them are in positions where they will ask for money and the church has to provide. That church has a strong welfare system in which they are providing for the needs of a lot of people. But the media ignores that. They make it look like, oh, he's just taking money for himself. No. Apart from the fact that that house is not even in his name. It's in the ministry's name. So when he passes on, it is still in the ministry's name. It is not even something that he can pass on to his children unless his children have positions in the ministry. Because it is in the ministry's name. Some people don't understand how companies work. If there's a difference between something owned by you and something owned by a company. Just because you are the CEO of a company does not entitle you to do whatever you can, whatever you feel like doing. You can't do whatever you feel like doing because it's a company. There are board of directors. There are other people involved. There are other co-owners. It's not your personal private, property. You're just the CEO or just the founder. So there are a lot of things, all these things are not looked into, and all these things are not, then if you watch some of the videos, they go into stupid things like saying that, oh, he calls himself an apostle and says that he can speak to Jesus, that he speaks to Jesus face to face. So what? So what? An apostle is the same thing as, it's just a title in ministry. What about the Catholic Church that has the Pope? The Pope is the vicar of Christ. That means the seat of Christ, the voice of God. Why don't you criticize the Pope for calling himself Pope? And why don't stop there. Criticize all the Muslims, for their own beliefs. Criticize the Buddhists for their own beliefs. Everybody has names that suggest that it is only their own religion that is the only way, and that their leaders are speaking to God. So what is there? Now, when you see things like, they want to demonize it like, oh, he's trying to say that he's one of the 12 apostles. He never said that he was one of the 12 apostles. He just said that he's an apostle. And everybody who has common sense knows that apostle is just a title. Just like we have pastor, we have apostle. But they want to demonize it and make him look like, oh, he's a cult leader. He's saying that he was one of the 12 disciples. If you want to use that, then attack all the Mormons. Because all the Mormons created their own Bible and put Adam Smith inside. So attack all the Mormons. Because according to them, Adam Smith wrote his own Bible and made it about America. Just basically made America the promised land instead of Israel. So why don't you attack all the Mormons? This is crazy. And I won't be surprised if they will later go after them after they finish dealing with Christians. But we need to be wise and see what the devil is doing. Now, the concept of him speaking to Jesus face to face. People have seen visions. As a matter of fact, when Paul, on the way to Damascus, was that not a vision? A lot of people, after the death, burial, and resurrection, from the Bible times, even to today, haven't you heard of all the testimonies in the Muslim world of Muslims testifying that they saw a vision of Jesus, or in their dream they saw Jesus, or they saw an apparition of Jesus, and they converted? And even people like Marcus Rogers, you've heard about such things, and I think you have even spoken about it. So why do you believe that and not believe that? Because this is an opportunity for you to attack a pastor. What is the big deal if somebody said that they saw a vision of Jesus and Jesus spoke to them, but they want to use it and demonize it with the world? And the interesting thing is that this world, the same people of the world, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady recently came out and said on video, and you can Google it on YouTube, his wife said that she's a witch, that she's a good witch. And when Tom Brady was asked about if there's any rituals and pre-game rituals he does before the game, his wife does incantations on him. Why is that okay? Taylor Swift calls herself a witch openly. Why is that okay? So it is okay for somebody to say that they are a witch. It is okay for somebody to do incantations. You go on TikTok, there are teenagers that are selling love spells. Why is nobody putting them in prison? Somebody is saying that they are selling love spells. You can buy love spells on TikTok that are made by people who say they are witches. Teenagers, in getting people involved into all this new age or whatever. And burning sage. Even you've heard about, if you follow the Baldoni situation with the wife of that guy who played Deadpool, this thing. The Baldoni guy was doing all kinds of incantation sage and all of this. Is a Hollywood guy. Before he makes the movie, he does this incense, incantations, and all of that before they make the movie. All of this is in the court documents. All of this came out. Nobody complained that, why is this guy into all this witchcraft stuff? Oh, it is weird. Let us demonize him for being into all this weird supernatural stuff. It is okay for the world to be supernatural. But when somebody is supernatural in Christianity, it's a problem. It is crazy. So we need to realize this and come to terms with this. What he said that he speaks to Jesus one-on-one. What is the meaning of prayer? Prayer means talking to God. If you are somebody who you pray and God does not answer, there's a problem with you. The very meaning of prayer is communication, talking to God. That is what prayer is. So when the Fox News thinks that it should now demonize somebody who says they can hear from God, but they will not demonize the world who are doing incantations, or even look at this movie that came out, Sinner. Wasn't that movie a glorification of witchcraft and sorcery with the vampire movie? And every vampire movie, there's always witchcraft. And Christianity is weak. Original in the old vampire movies, vampires were afraid of crosses. If you show a vampire a cross, the vampire will start shaking. If you pour holy water on the vampire will shrivel up and die. Or the vampire cannot enter churches. But now in the modern ones, reflecting of all these things, Christianity is weak, and it is witchcraft that have the supernatural power over the vampires and the witches and all of that. And you can see that in basically every Netflix whatever that has anything to do with vampires. So you can see that in the media and everything, even in the entertainment and Hollywood. Why is that okay? They exalt the supernatural when it is not Christian. But when the supernatural is Christian, it is weird. What is weird? These are people that go into New Age stuff of talking to the dead. They do incantations and all of that of where they believe they can. So you believe that it is okay for you to talk to the dead, and it is possible for you to talk to the dead through witchcraft. But for somebody to pray and say that they talk to God and God talk to them, that one is now weird. But to talk to the dead, there's nothing weird about that one. This is the same world. So we need to be wise and see these games that the world play and understand what they are doing. Because now with them demonizing things like, this one calls himself an apostle. It means he's a cult leader. So what next? You call yourself a pastor, you're a cult leader, because pastor means shepherd. Pastor means shepherd. So the people are your sheep. So basically they will now say, you are now saying that you are creating followers for yourself. And even when you look at all these things, they use language like his followers. Anytime they want to attack a pastor, they will call the congregation his followers. No, those are followers of Jesus. The pastor does not preach about himself. He's preaching about Jesus. You see, they ignore all of that. But they want to do it to make him look like the cult leader. So that they can demonize him. And it is not just him. They will come for all churches too, including you, Marcus Rogers. Your own fall will be very interesting, because you have to understand, Satan is very strategic, and he's coming for all the Christians, but he will come for the ones that are making the most impact. Someone like Marcus Rogers, and there are many of these YouTube exposed channels. They like to diss someone like Pastor Benny Hinn. Recently, Pastor Benny Hinn just went to Kenya, and large crusade. Thousands of people just came. Was it Kenya or Uganda? Thousands of people came. You can see somebody who is reaching out and winning so many people to Christ. What are you doing? You will go and make YouTube videos. What have you done? So it is you that is making YouTube videos judging other pastors. That is the one that is going to heaven, and that is through Christianity. Then the one that is there doing the work and leading many people to Christ. Look at Evangelist Rabonke when he was alive. Look at how many people he led to Christ in Africa. That is where a lot of churches came from. When you look at the works of John G. Lakes, early works of, Full Gospel Businessmen Fellowship, all these old fellowships, the Assemblies of God, all these old churches. When these missionaries came, they planted churches that sprouted into millions of churches. And this was way after the slavery and colonization era. So this throws away all the nonsense of the white man came, Christianity is the white man's religion, blah, blah, blah. No. Especially now that, a lot of white people are completely against Christianity and are trying to make America, the UK and Canada as un-Christian as possible. They view Christianity in the public place as wrong. It's separation of church and state. So they attack it. But they have no problem with merging Islam with everything. And merging LGBT with everything. So I like to point out these differences and for people to be honest and see these things.
Communities with, wait till you see the house that this dummy lived in. And y'all know.
You see, he's still talking about the house. We have established that the house is owned by the church. And nobody lives in that house alone. That house, that size alone. There are a lot of people he's helping out that are staying there. So all of that, all the charity, all the people that church is providing accommodation is not talked about. Nobody addresses that. Brandon Tatum here is twisting truths and ignoring things to demonize this pastor. This is sad and quite frankly demonic.
David E. Taylor, there was this famous clip of David E. Taylor, the famous clip of this fool when he went through a divorce and he had to get deposed. And in the day.
Okay, yeah, I rewinded the video. I went back. Let me go back to where we were. I didn't remember that I went back, so that when I was talking about, Brandon Tatum's clothing. So let's go back to where we were.
You have that as an asset of $2,844,500. So do you own it?
I just answered that, didn't I? I said we didn't own it.
Okay, but where?
I see this. Even the person that is asking questions, these are the things. These people are biased and they have their own agenda. He has already answered before, that he doesn't own the house, that the church owns it, and they are listening to buy. The lady knows that, but she's asking and trying to, you bought it, it is your house. No.
Where does the? On November 29th, 2013, JMMI paid over $6,000 to Louis Vuitton.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What would that be for?
Well, this is.
Imagine how they are ignoring all the welfare, all the giving. So $6,000. So you are telling me that $6,000 to Louis Vuitton, that is all that was given by the people in all those years. The clothing and the provision, the housing, the accommodation, all the things, the expensive, the needs that the people have benefited from this church, all of that is ignored because they have to demonize him as a human trafficker. Human trafficking as in and forced labor, and they will obviously want to, because that does not look strong enough, they will add a sex angle to it, that he's trafficking people for sex, which is crazy. Because even the stupidity of, how will somebody traffic somebody to church to have sex with a person in church? Even that doesn't make sense. Apart from that, these people will allow the people of the world to be having all the sexual urges and all of that. All of that is liberation. Don't the LGBT have march past where they walk around naked and they allow that in front of children? The LGBT walk around naked in front of children. They allow that. Then they want to now, these are the people that were going to Didi parties and doing all the partying. Now that Didi is locked up, there are still orgies going on left, right, and center. If you think they are not, they are still going on. An addict is an addict. So the people who are addicted to that lifestyle are still living that lifestyle. Nobody's complaining. But they now want to come up with a ridiculous assertion that this guy is trafficking people to his church to sleep with them. First of all, if someone is trafficking people to sleep with, it is not to church that they will bring that person to. You see? And keep in mind, it is this same America where it is legal. Let me say that again. It is legal. Prostitution is legal in Vegas. So if he really wants to do that, in this world where anybody can preach any gospel, he can just preach that, well, after all, I don't know LGBTQ churches that the left loves. The Fox News is never going to criticize them. He can just become a sellout and become one of these LGBT churches and say it's okay to be LGBT and gay and all of that, and then start a brothel in Vegas, move a branch of the ministry in Vegas and make the headquarters in Vegas, and then legally be doing the prostitution thing there. But people want to come up with stupid things and say, he's trafficking. Who will try? If somebody was actually interested in sleeping with prostitutes, if a pastor was interested in sleeping with prostitutes, is it to the church who will bring them to be sleeping with? There are no hotels. There are not other places that they can go. It is to the church, where it will now raise suspicion and raise questions and all of that. Keep in mind that this is a world, the world that we live in. If a pastor wants to go completely worldly and preach anything, that is what the world will love. So if he wants to be the pastor, the kind of pastor that preaches, it's okay to have sex with as many people as possible. Blah, 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 blah. After all, David had sex with many people. So did Solomon and a lot of the old kings of the Old Testament. If he wants to preach that version, twist the gospel in that manner, he can. There are LGBTQ churches. Nobody of among this set is complaining about them. We don't see the government going hard on them. Yes, we know that these are the people that we always bring forth, all the pedophiles and the church shooters. But now they want to replace the church shooting news with this news of demonizing this pastor. Ridiculous.
For clothes concerning my TV ministry as well.
Or you have to wear Louis Vuitton.
It don't matter what name it is. The point is clothing are allocated to us for ministry purposes as well.
That is true. That is true. Let's understand something. We all have seen an account booklet before. If XYZ amount is allotted to clothing, what does it matter what brand of clothing you choose to buy? The amount that you have been allocated for clothing is the amount that you are allocated. Some men have only 2 suits, but they are two super expensive and quality suits. Some men have 20 suits, but they are not as expensive or up to the price of the 2 suits. But each one works for each one according to his own taste. So this has been allocated for clothing. He spends it on that. Now, the question of why is it Louis Vuitton? What do you want him to, as a matter of fact, personally, I would say he should, and this is general for pastors, because Louis Vuitton is not paying you. As a matter of fact, these brands should pay you to wear their clothes. They should. The celebrities that are wearing all these celebrity bands, they are paid. Why would you want to wear a Birkin and all these, women want to wear Birkin bags, Balenciaga that has been involved in all kinds of scandal and pedophilia pushing and all of that. They want to support all these big brands, and these big brands are the celebrities are paying them. Why would you want to buy such things? You yourself get quality custom. Stuff that only you is wearing, like the Pastor Benny Hinn routes. Pastor Benny Hinn, he wears his custom suits. Get your own custom stuff. God cares about what you wear. Read the Bible. Before Aaron to be a priest, God specified when he was specifying also what should be built around to make the Ark of the Covenant. God specified what the Aaron should wear, down to the detail. Read it in the Bible. God cares about what you wear. And yes, if you are going to church, you are going to the presence of God, you have to dress well. It's a sign of respect. It's a sign of responsibility. If a president calls you, you will not go to the president dressed in rags. So if you are going to church, dress well. It's common sense. It's a sign of respect. It's a sign of seriousness. You cannot be in the mentality of where God has set me as I am. So you dress with rags. But when you go to meet a president or you go to meet a CEO, you dress well. But for your God, you dress with rags because your mentality is God accepts me as I am. That is disrespectful. It's disrespectful. Yes, God accepts you as you are. But have some common sense to respect God. To respect Him even more than others for accepting you as you are. So you show up with Him like you are proud to be in His presence, like you respect His presence, like you believe you are in the presence, you are going into the presence of a royal. So you dress well. You cannot dress well for the world and dress like rags for the King of Kings and think that makes sense. It's stupidity. Now, when it comes to pastor's clothes, it is a shame if you can see your pastor wearing rags and it does not occur to you that you should buy clothes for him. It is a shame if you see your pastor trekking and you cannot buy clothes for him. Now they talk about things like the expensive cars that pastors drive. What kind of people go to the church? It's not poor people. A lot of people ignore that. If I was a weirdo that was into all kinds of weird stuff and I bought, I had the money and I was buying limousines and whatever for prostitutes, like many people do, will it concern you? The girls that are on Instagram, don't you know why they are doing it? All these girls that are posting bikini pics and half-naked pics on Instagram, don't you know why they are doing it? Do you know how many men go to flood into their DM and fly them out to Dubai, to different places, wherever they are, to have sex and give them expensive gifts? Give them gifts for even responding to the DM. Then give them another gift after the sex. And it is serious money. This girl, Bad Barbie, that made almost more money than the CEO of Apple. You can imagine, from prostitution online. She made more money than the CEO of Apple. All of us, other people are training their kids that they can one day succeed in school, read books and all of that, and then be prestigious enough to get a job like running a 500 Fortune 500 company, like being the CEO of Apple and all of that. Yet you see somebody who is from prostitution online, making more money via OnlyFans, than the CEO of Apple. The other girl from Bob, she made more money than LeBron James from making TikToks and OnlyFans. She uses her TikTok to channel people to her OnlyFans. And she made more money than LeBron James, who is I believe he's currently the number one most paid athlete in the world. This is somebody that's making more money than Michael Jordan ever made, at least from basketball. And somebody is using online prostitution. So it shows you the kind of gifts that all these people are giving. Why don't you track down, first of all, arrest these women and say they're exploiting these men and, return all these men's money? But no, they have the right to do it. But when people go to a church that they believe in what the church is preaching and they want to see this message that this person is preaching pushed to the world, it is now oppression. It is now, he's taking advantage of people. The people are victims. Did the members of the church tell you they are victims? This is the trick, that they are persecuting Christians and making it look like, they are doing a good thing. Like they're helping Christians. No, you are persecuting the Christians. The people in the church want this message that this man is preaching to be spread to the world. That is why they gave. Now you have come from sideways to come and say that he's exploiting the people. Did the people ask for their money back? Did the people say that they even regret giving? And there is another thing. There is always one or two snakes that will come in. And all they need is one or two snakes that will come and they will ignore the over 99% of people who are all for the church and are all for giving. And then because of what one or two people say, they will say, he's exploiting people. Exploiting how? And these are the same people that will not go after Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, that the leaders of Black Lives Matter was using Black Lives Matter money to buy mansions. That is okay. For themselves. That one is okay. But it's this pastor that you will attack because it is pastor. So people need to be wise, and all preachers need to be careful and understand what the devil is planning, because they will use this to attack every pastor. So first of all, if you're a pastor, what you should do if you're in America or in the Western world, first of all, separate yourself from your church. The finances, make sure it is two separate things. This is the church's accounts and this is your own personal accounts. Now, if you are going to be receiving a salary from the church, make it fixed, make it clear, and let it be, external auditors looking through the finances of the church and the IRS and all of that. So everything is kept above board, and everybody can see at every point what is happening. Then in your own finances, you can invest, buy real estate, and do whatever you want, and own companies and all of that. And you can even own separate charities to do whatever else you want to do. But keep yourself separate from the church's finances completely. Do not take anything. Let that be part of your own offering to God, that you are not taking a dime from the ministry, because they will come after you. Even if you take 1 kobo, you take 1 cent, they will come after you and say that you're exploiting the people, that all these businesses and all these other things that you have is because of church, that you're exploiting church. People, and this is the nonsense. People don't understand, and these are people who don't go to church, and they don't understand. If you have been a member of church, I'm sure you've encountered situations where somebody comes to somebody and just say, "The Lord told me or put it on my heart to give you this." There's a lot of gift given in church among the congregation, especially in mega churches and bigger churches. There's a lot of gift giving. So when you are in Christianity and you are a member of a Christian church, there are people who give you gifts. The laptop that I'm using now to record this was given to me by a pastor that I have never met as a gift. That is Christianity for you. There are Christians who will just, the Lord laid it on my heart to give you a car. Many times. There are so many stories and testimonies like that. They ignore all this. So the people who are going to church know why they are going to church. And they are not fools. They are benefiting. The encouragement they are receiving, they themselves, they are growing. And they themselves are blessing people. Like somebody was talking about the pastor that, this pastor owns private jets. But you do not see that private jet was a gift by a young man who everybody had given up on. But this pastor prayed for this young man and gave him a prophecy. It worked out, and the guy got the job and got the money, and everything worked out for him. He dashed, when this guy had his own private jet and a lot of money, he dashed that pastor a private jet. Now, there are people who look at it and say, why does this pastor have private jet? Where were you when that young man needed help? Why didn't you go and give him advice? Why didn't you go and pray for him and give him his breakthrough so that he will have money to buy many people private jets? A lot of people ignore all this. They ignore all the help and all the millionaires and billionaires that the pastors are creating. If it was easy, if it was a matter of you just start a church and you ask for offering and everybody will bring you money to build your own personal house, everybody will be a pastor. Everybody will be, there will be no pastor that will be broke. The pastors that have money are very limited. Compared to the number of pastors, there are billions of pastors in this world. When it comes to the number of pastors, I'm aware of a program that a pastor organized where the number of pastors that registered to attend, pastors with congregations, were over 100 million. And I'm talking about, the person I'm talking about who organized it was Pastor Chris Yakulomi. He organized a meeting for pastors. That's over 100 million pastors registered to attend. So how many pastors are there in the whole world? You just see a handful of all these pastors that are rich, and then you want to demonize everything and categorize everything and put emblems on everything. Imagine if there are 3 million billionaires in the whole world and only 2 are rich. Then you say because of that, engineers are rich people. It's only 2 that are rich out of 3 million. So People don't think about these things. People just want to go in, rush, and demonize. It's crazy. So this is evil. So remember what I say. If you're a pastor, if you're a minister, separate. Don't take anything from the church. Now, of course, it's difficult to avoid getting gifts from the congregation because people can just see you and want to give you gifts. And this is another thing, because they will not take this into account. They will now say, oh, this person is taking advantage of congregation. But, do what you do. And this is why it's important for us to preach the gospel even more and take positions of authority in different fields, politics, law, and all of that. This lady that is asking this man these questions is clearly, she has made up her mind that the man is guilty and she wants to put him in jail. She's not interested in the truth. All she's interested in is, let us put this guy in jail. There's a lot of things she's ignoring. She will not ask him any question. There's no way that you can be watching this and be so stupid to think that there's no welfare in his church and that the bulk of the money is going to his own personal account. Where does the money to run the church, to keep the church going, come from? Where does the money, a lot of you've thrown a birthday party. How much did it cost you to throw a birthday party? Some of you threw a wedding. How much did it cost you to throw a wedding? How much do you think it costs for a church to keep the lights on? It's a lot of money. So where do you think the money is coming from if you are so stupid that you believe that the pastor is eating all the money? People like to be stupid with these kinds of things and unfair. And you'll be judged for this, on that great day.
What do you mean they're allocated to you?
In a media ministry.
In a what?
Media ministry.
Yeah.
Okay, or on the road, when I'm always traveling and using my clothes, I'm sweating through them. So I'm needing new clothes also for television ministry through the years.
So you used ministry money to buy your wardrobe.
Outfit.
So June 2014, you spent $3,500 by JMMI to Versace in the Bahamas. Yes?
I'm sure that's right. If it shows there.
And that was for clothing for you?
Yes, probably. Yes, most likely.
So you don't see that there's any problem when you're ministering to the poor, the sick, the needy, to be appearing in Louis Vuitton and Versace?
Now that's a stupid thing to say. You cannot minister to the poor, the sick, and all of that and be sick yourself. Sick people cannot help sick people. If a doctor was sick, who can he help? Don't you know doctors get sick? Which doctor has shown up for work sick and was allowed to work sick? If you are poor and you dress poor people themselves will not listen to you. A man that is on the ground cannot lift people up. You're on the ground with them. You have to stand up first. Now, the stupidity of, you don't say that there's a problem that you are ministering to the poor and all of that. First of all, apart from the fact that ignoring the fact that a lot of people who come to church are not poor, and the gospel is for everybody. And a lot of people, if Apostle Paul said, I may be counted as poor, but I make many rich. So if you come poor, you become rich. If you listen to the word of God, Joshua 1:8 makes it clear. Meditate on these things day and night. If you meditate on it day and night, you will have good success. So the Bible tells you the evidence that you meditate on the word of God day and night is good success. God is going to make your prosperity evident to all, that they will glorify the Father in heaven. So if you are not successful, if you do not have good success, that is evidence, that is a fruit. By their fruit you shall know them. That is a fruit that you do not meditate on the word of God day and night. And if you think I'm wrong, then Joshua 1:8 is wrong. So go across the word and cancel Joshua 1:8 from every Bible, as well as every other Bible verse that makes it clear that when you obey God's word and walk in the light of God's word, you will prosper. That is all through the Bible. All through. Now, let's talk about the nonsense of, you don't see that there's something wrong with wearing expensive clothes and ministering to the poor. What kind of clothes do you think Jesus was wearing? Do you think Jesus was wearing poor clothes? No. When Jesus was crucified on the cross, What does the Bible say happened with his garments? The material in which Jesus' garments was, that was just one, that the one that he wore on the day, at Gethsemane, so that was the last bit of clothing he was wearing. Not that he had, that he was wearing. It wasn't his best bit of clothing. It just happened to be the one he was wearing in the Garden of Gethsemane when they caught him. That the material was so rich that they cast lots, not for the full clothing, but for its cut, pieces of the garments. It was not even for the full clothing. In spite of the fact that it was torn, the material was so rich that the soldiers cast lots for it. Think about it. These soldiers were well paid. The soldiers were well paid, like you could say, because in those days, it's either you were a farmer, you're a carpenter, you're a baker, the job options were limited. It is not like now that we have white collar jobs and all of that. You have jobs where you just sit in an office with AC. The jobs were limited. So soldiers were highly paid. That was one of the coveted jobs. People worked hard and, I want my son to be a soldier one day so that he can be able to afford this and get this and that benefit and all of that. Those were the people that were gambling for the clothes that Jesus was wearing. Just the material. To show you how expensive it was. Remember that this is the same Jesus that the woman came with her alabaster box and poured expensive perfume on his legs and washed it in. Jesus did not complain. Apart from that, of course, there's the significance of that. But apart from that, if Judas had stopped that woman from doing that, what would have happened? Judas would have stolen that money and Jesus would not have bothered because he was stealing all the other money before. That is how rich Jesus was. That is how Jesus moved. He was that wealthy that he was able to afford his treasurer being a thief. I dare any bank to hire a thief as their treasurer, and let us see if that bank would exist. Jesus is somebody who fed women and children not counted, with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. 5,000, a crowd of over 5,000. With 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, and it just kept multiplying based on one prayer. So it was not even a matter of the number. If there were 1 million people there, that fish will keep multiplying and it will feed the 1 million. If there were 10 million, the fish will keep multiplying and feed the 10 million. Julius Caesar could not do that. Where was it written that Julius Caesar fed 5,000 people and didn't feel a thing, or fed them from 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes? So him and Julius Caesar, who was richer? Let us be realistic. So the argument, but this woman now, she's bringing sentiment that has nothing to do with the legal system. As a charge against him. Oh, so don't you feel that there's something wrong with somebody being wearing expensive clothes and preaching to the poor and the needy? Not only is what he's saying flawed and stupid, what does that have to do with the legal system? Is that a crime? Is it now illegal? So if you are talking to poor people, you should not dress poor.
Well, that ain't something I purchase all the time.
Well, it looks like you did several times in total almost 50.
You see that he did several times. She wants to add that it looks like you did it several. He told you he does not purchase it all the time. Even if he wants to purchase it all the time, I've said it before, it is best to just separate the finances because they start coming after people with the world can do a lot of things and get away with it. But the day you do certain things, it may not be wrong, but they'll use it and come after you. So separate the finances. Don't take anything from the church. Let your own life and your own financial situation be completely different from the church. Now the church has allocated this amount goes to clothing towards him. And not sure that is part of the media ministry. But I would say there is the aspect of how will I put it? In as much as the church should have a priority, like a pie chart priority of how it allocates money and where it puts majority of his money. I know that clearly it does not put majority of his money on the man's clothes. It's not possible, So they should also put in these kinds of things. They should also, but then again, they are trying to demonize him. It's not about truth. They should put how much has the church spent on clothing for the poor. How much has the church given to clothing for the poor? Put that. How much has the church given in accommodation for the poor? In preaching the gospel, distributing Bibles, Christian materials and all that, how much has the church put into that? Put that. What of the television ministry? Are this not? These are people who want Christianity to be on television. They want the preacher. They want their preacher to be on television, so they give. So that preacher should be on television. Is he on television for free? But they don't want to put that. They just want to demonize this guy. And this is what the world does. It is so sad. It is so sad. Sad. But moving forward, pastors, especially if you're in the, you're in America, Canada, and all that, separate your finances. Make sure it is separate. I won't be surprised, if this guy has separated it, but they are still coming after him because some things from the church were allocated to him. So perhaps if you consider, how best we can, you can cut off everything, collect nothing from the church. Let the church operate on its own, and your finances is different. But there's so much to say because that kind of also violates certain doctrines and principles. Like giving to the priest, like in the case of Elijah, it was important that God gave an instructions for them to give to Elijah. So there has to be a connection where the preacher or the one who is anointed is blessed, because there's a blessing in giving to a priest or a preacher, a minister. So all of that they ignore. They ignore the fact that everyone who goes to the church believes this, and Christianity is older than America. So all these things are older than America. These practices are older than America itself. But they want to demonize. They will ignore everything in the world. They ignore the Epstein files. This is what they want to, talk about.
$50,000 to limo land in 2013 and 14. You have to answer yes.
Yes.
Okay. What was that for?
That was to cut the Mercedes into a limo.
It was to cut the Mercedes
into a limo.
Notice what they are concentrating on. The things that have to do with cars, clothes, mansions. That is what they want to concentrate on. They don't want to concentrate on the percentage of people that this church helped. They don't want to talk about, even in the call centers, that the people, this person called that was suicidal because of this call. This person called wanting to commit abortion. This person called with this problem. This person called with that problem. There are a lot of problems that people have that cannot be taken to the police because the police cannot interfere. And it is not illegal. There are a lot of things that people go through that you cannot involve a policeman. But there are people that are hurting and they need help. Now these churches step in and help. They don't want to address that. Now the concept of, because I don't want this video to get really, really, really long, because now I know how people's attention span is. Most people won't even get to the end of the video. Now, so I will just address several things from different videos, not just this one by Brandon Tatum. Now, the idea of, at the call centers, he's saying that if you don't work, you won't eat. First of all, that is just a thing that he is saying, probably like, the lunch time or the dinner time, for those working at the call centers, you have to meet this target. It's just to ensure productivity. Businesses do things like that, perhaps not with food, but they do it with other incentives, like you get a raise or you could get fired. companies do that. So he's doing a different kind of incentive with the food situation, you know, and like, oh, for you to before you can go on a break and get some food and all that, because nobody was in prison there. Anybody could come in and go at any time. So all the allegations of forced labor and all of that, this is the same thing with they have done with several other trials now. The FBI is basically now a joke, and it's now based on personal vendettas and nonsense. There are a lot of innocent people that are now being thrown in jail over nonsense. You know, so that is also why it's important for us to have real Christians to be at the helm of these organizations. And we also have to preach and teach for Christians to know what to do to when they lead or get into these positions. How should a Christian lead the FBI? How should a Christian lead the presidency? We saw President Trump, you know, talking about going to heaven or hell, you know, and saying that he heard that he's not like doing very well and all that, because, you know, a president faces a different situation that other people do not face. Like when you are in a situation where you have to decide on going to war and killing people to protect your own people and all of that, it's not a decision that any other Christian has to make. So how do you reconcile that with Christianity? You know, certain other decisions that the president has to make. So, you know, we need to, in the church, preach and teach people in different fields, you know, how they can be effective in different fields and to lead different fields. You know, it's very important that you do that. Now, with my own organization, you know, Alfred's Bible Club, it's structured completely different. So it's done in a way that it is basically independent. And I don't ask for anything, and I don't need to ask for anything. So it's a matter of you give your life to Christ, you get our handbook, our manual, you study it, and you start your own fellowship. And no fellowship should be more than 12 members, just like Jesus had 12 disciples kind of thing. So when it becomes that, you know, it breaks and then somebody launches out and starts another one, so it multiplies that way. And you gather together to fellowship, pray, and talk. So it's all about you yourself. You are teaching people. And if you join, you will eventually become a teacher of people. So that is how that goes. So it's a self-discipleship engine that just replicates itself. And you keep discipling and discipling and discipling. And I don't need to ask for money. And nobody needs to ask for money inside. So it just grows that way. You know, you start your own, you know, let's say your name is Adam, you can call your own Adam's Bible Club. You know, another lady, her name is Helen's Bible Club. So it just goes on like that. You know, so that's how the Alfred Bible Club is structured. You know, it's I structured it in a way that it will not need church buildings, and also it can exist after the rapture. You know, so that is that. You know, I may make a different video about this, but let me just leave this here. You know, thank you and God bless you. Ask any questions you want in the comment section, but don't put anything in the comment section without watching this video from the beginning to the end. You know, watching my video from the beginning to the end. Thank you and God bless you.
Say this prayer audibly if you've not given your heart to Jesus Christ. Dear God, I believe in my heart that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came, died, and was raised from the dead to save me. I confess him, Lord, over my life, and ask you to give me your Holy Spirit to live within me. I receive your Spirit by faith, and thank you for I am now born again. In Jesus' name, amen. If you just prayed that prayer, congratulations, you're now a Christian. Go to alfred.vip and get resources that help you with your work with God.